After studying this module, you shall be able to know about conflicts, understand negotiation, its types and strategies for conflict resolution, and identify the various strategies for peacemaking. Conflict is a very common part of social interaction and human life. A conflict is basically an understood incompatibility of actions or goals between two or more people. Many people have a very difficult time in finding adequate solution for resolving conflicts. To develop a solution, it is very helpful to understand how to go about finding the solution first. No conflict is merely two-sided. Real conflicts are always multilateral. We need to recognize the limitations of two-sided procedures such as the courtroom. Voting is an inferior means of conflict management because it produces two-sidedness. People argue differently toward a conclusion than toward an action. Therefore, a consensus is required for committed actions. Thomas stated that conflict occurs when one individual or group perceives that another individual or group has caused or will cause harm. The types of conflicts vary and, for instance, can include individuals or groups in an athletic contest or nations in a war. Conflict can be caused by a variety of factors. One of the most common causes is competition for limited resources. For people who live or work together, space is often a source of conflict. Who gets the larger office or room? How is furniture arranged? How income is spent can be the source of marital conflict. Indeed, wars between nations are often due to territorial conflict or competition for limited resources. Poor communication can be a factor in marital conflict. Group unrest, employees' discontent, or even international hostilities. In fact, Barron and colleagues reported that ineffective communication is the greatest contribution to conflict in work situation. Social psychologists and those working in the field of peace psychology are interested in reducing destructive conflict. A number of conflict management techniques have been identified by researchers because poor communication is often a cause of conflict. Improving communication between sides can help resolve differences as shown earlier in the prisoner's dilemma game. Sometimes a third-party mediator such as a marriage counselor, a courtroom judge, or the United Nations is needed. Labor negotiation may involve an outside arbitrator. Conflict is sometimes reduced when the opposing sides work together or some common goal that is called a superordinate goal. Negotiation types and strategies. Negotiation can take a wide variety of forms, from a trained negotiator acting on behalf of a particular organization or position in a formal setting to an informal negotiation between friends. Negotiation can be contrasted with mediation, where a neutral third party listens to each side's arguments and attempts to help craft an agreement between the parties. It can also be compared with arbitration, which resembles a legal proceeding. In arbitration, both sides make an argument as to the merits of their case, and the arbitrator decides the outcome. This negotiation is also sometimes called positional or hard bargaining negotiation. When faced with a conflict of interest, a common form of conflict resolution is negotiation. The term negotiation can be identified in different ways. As Daniel Druckmann puts it, negotiation is a method of handling conflict, a puzzle to be resolved, or a bargaining game involving an exchange of concessions. Negotiation is a process by which persons who have shared an opposed interest want to come to an agreement and try to work out a settlement. With respect to organizations, in case of conflicts inside an organization, negotiation can strengthen the structural links that exist between people and departments, and in cases of negotiation between organizations, each side may discover that the other has useful strengths or resources and that both can benefit from an exchange or partnership. Thus, negotiation is a process of communication aimed at achieving specific goals where parties in conflict work together for an outcome and meet their interest better than their best alternative. Negotiation uses the concept of communication, goals, interest, and best alternative. Now, the types of negotiation. Broadly, there are two types of negotiation: distributive and integrative negotiation. In distributive negotiation, the goal is to make an agreement more favorable to oneself than to others, and in integrative negotiation, the goal is to make an agreement that benefits everyone involved. Social interdependence theory provides a framework for understanding negotiation and its types. Social interdependence theory operates when the accomplishments of each individual goals is affected by the actions of others. There are two types of social interdependence. One is positive, which is cooperative, and the other is negative, which is competitive. Positive interdependence exists when individuals perceive that they can reach their goals only and only if other individuals also reach their goals, and therefore promotes each other's effort to reach the goals. Negative interdependence exists when they perceive that they can obtain their goals only if others fail to obtain their goals, and therefore obstruct each other from reaching their goals. Positive interdependence results in interaction and negative interdependence results in oppositional interaction. Both distributive and integrative negotiation may be viewed as processes of social interdependence. In terms of processes, the basic premise of social interdependence theory is that positive interdependence will result in interaction, which in turn results in cooperation. Negative interdependence, on the other hand, will result in oppositional interaction, which in turn results in competition. Now, the distributive negotiation. Distributive negotiation may be seen as a competitive situation in which individuals seek to win by reaching an agreement that is favorable to them and unfavorable to the other. Distributive negotiation is often referred to as zero-sum negotiation. The assumption is that the issue is a zero-sum conflict in which individuals' goals are negatively correlated. Gains for one person translate into equal losses for the other. The objective of distributive negotiations is the maximization of unilateral gains, and each person tries to maximize self-gain and obtain the largest possible share of a fixed pie. Negotiators interact with each other as though they have no past history or future relationship. Distributive negotiation is often used in situations where there is a single fixed issue to be negotiated and where the greatest concern is getting the best possible value. A key difference between the two types of negotiation is how information is handled in distributive negotiation. In distributive negotiation, the goal is to withhold as much information as possible. putting the other side at a disadvantage. It is also important to try to find out as much information as you can about the other side to create a greater advantage for yourself. Now we will discuss integrative negotiation. Integrative negotiations may be seen as a cooperative situation in which individuals seek an agreement that benefits everyone involved. The assumptions are that it leads to joint gain and individuals' goals are positively correlated. Gains for one person translate into equal gains for the other. The objective of integrative negotiation is to maximize mutual benefits, and each person tries to expand the pie to ensure everyone's goals will be met to the greatest extent possible. This type of negotiation requires being good at both creating value and claiming it. The goal is to create as many options with as much value as possible for both sides, and then parties need to claim the best value for themselves among the options that have been created. This can result in both sides getting exactly what they want, but in most cases it requires that each side compromise slightly to get what it values the most. Now, negotiation styles. Neath W. Thomas identified 5 styles responses to negotiation. These 5 strategies have been frequently described in the literature and are based on the dual concern model. The dual concern model of conflict resolution is a perspective that assumes individuals' preferred method of dealing with conflict is based on 2 themes or dimensions. One is a concern for self, that is assertiveness, and the other is a concern for others, that is empathy. Based on this model, individuals balance the concern for personal needs and interests with the needs and interests of others. The following 5 styles can be used based on individuals' preferences depending on their pro-self or pro-social goals. These styles can change over time, and individuals can have strong dispositions towards numerous styles. First is accommodating. Individuals who enjoy solving the other party's problem and preserving personal relationships. Accommodators are sensitive to the emotional states, body language, and verbal signals of the other parties. They can, however, feel taken advantage of in situations when the other party places little emphasis on the relationship. The second is avoiding. Individuals who do not like to negotiate and don't do it unless warranted. When negotiating, avoiders tend to defer and dodge the confrontational aspects of negotiating. However, they may be perceived as tactful and diplomatic. The third is collaborating. Individuals who enjoy negotiations that involve solving tough problems in creative ways. Collaborators are good at using negotiations to understand the concerns and interests of the other parties. They can, however, create problems by transforming simple situations into more complex ones. Fourth is competing. Individuals who enjoy negotiations because they present an opportunity to win something. Competitive negotiators have strong instincts for all aspects of negotiating and are often strategic because their style can dominate the bargaining process. Competitive negotiators often neglect the importance of relationships. And the fifth is compromising. Individuals who are eager to close the deal by doing what is fair and equal for all parties involved in the negotiation. Compromisers can be useful when there is limited time to complete the deal. However, compromisers often unnecessarily rush the negotiation process and make concessions too quickly. Types of negotiators. Three basic kinds of negotiators have been identified by researchers involved in the Harvard negotiation project. These types of negotiators are soft bargainers, hard bargainers, and principled bargainers. The first is soft bargainers. These people see negotiation as too close to competition, as they choose a gentle style of bargaining. The offers they make are not in their best interest. They yield to others' demands, avoid confrontation, and they maintain good relations with fellow negotiators. Their perception of others is one of friendship and their goal is agreement. They do not separate the people from the problem but are soft on both. They avoid contest of wills and will interest on agreement, offering solutions and easily trusting others and changing their opinions. Next is hard bargainers. These people use contentious strategies to influence, utilizing phrases such as "this is my final offer" and take it or leave it. They make threats, are distrustful of others, insist on their position, and apply pressure to negotiate. They see others as adversaries and their ultimate goal is victory. Additionally, they will search for one single answer and insist you agree on it. They do not separate the people from the problem as with soft bargainers, but they are hard on both the people involved and the problem. Next is principled. Individuals who bargain this way seek integrative solutions and do so by sidestepping commitment to specific positions. They focus on the problem rather than the intentions, motives, and needs of the people involved. They separate the people from the problem, explore interests, avoid bottom lines, and reach results based on standards which are independent of personal will. They base their choices on objective criteria rather than power, pressure, self-interest, or an arbitrary decisional procedure. These criteria may be drawn from moral standards, principles of fairness, professional standards, tradition, and so on. Researchers from the Harvard Negotiation Project recommend that negotiators explore a number of alternatives to the problems they are facing in order to come to the best overall solution, but this is often not the case, as when you may be dealing with an individual utilizing soft or hard bargaining tactics. Now, the next topic is peacemaking. The term peacemaking is used in several different ways. Peacemaking, like other conflict resolution instruments, is hard to define and may be intended by different users to mean different things. Peacemaking is used to cover a wide range of missions and often include peace building and peacekeeping. The main function of peacekeeping is to facilitate the transition from a state of conflict to a state of peace. Peacemaking included the actions aimed at bringing two or more hostile parts to an agreement through diplomatic negotiations and with their consent. Now, the peace building. In contrast with peacekeeping, post-conflict peace building is a new concept of which the UN first took note in 1992. There are two basic types of peace building. First is, it aims either to reinforce preventing diplomacy, remedying the root causes of conflicts such as environmental degradation, underdevelopment, and threats to the human security and individuals, or by institutionalizing peace after a conflict. Peace building is longer term more systematic process, also designed to prevent violence from reigniting by mending relationships and remedying the underlying causes of violence and conflict in the first place. Peacemaking and peacekeeping both involve processes designed to stop violence and prevent it from restarting. Peacemaking is the creative process of engaging with others to make positive and lasting change. Peacemaking requires courage, compassion, and collaboration to create justice where it did not exist before. It also means taking a stand and being committed to creating change, no matter what challenges come up. According to the UN, peacemaking is action to bring hostile parties to agreement, essentially through such peaceful means. Peacemaking is the diplomatic effort intended to move a violent conflict into non-violent dialogue. The objective of peacemaking is thus to end the violence between the contending parties. Peacemaking can be done through negotiations, mediations, conciliations, and arbitration. Peacemaking is sometimes used to refer to a stage of conflict which occurs during a crisis or a prolonged conflict after diplomatic intervention has failed and before peacekeeping forces have had a chance to intervene. The term is sometimes used to mean simply making peace, understood simply as an outside intervention in a violent conflict. Peacemaking should imply a few obvious things. First, outside interveners are unlikely to want to sacrifice their own troops in order to make peace. This implies that the most peacemaking effort and energy should initially be devoted to negotiation, mediation, arbitration, and the like. The next topic is conflict resolution and peacemaking. According to Myers, whenever two or more people, groups, or nations interact, their perceived needs and goals may conflict. Social dilemmas arise when one side fails to empathize with the other's perspective and falsely attributes reasons to the other's behavior. Opposition can be fueled by competition, perceived injustice, and misperceptions and misinterpretations of the other's behavior. Through evolving self-serving motives and the idea that only one side can win as groups gain strength, so does the potential for social dilemma. Enabling communication, relieving mistrust, creating rewards for cooperation, and instilling a sense of moral obligation and altruism contribute to conflict resolution and peacemaking. According to Myers, conflicts occur when there is disagreement on the equality of justice, contributions, and the division of beneficial outcomes. Contact increases deeper relations between those who are in disagreement, and equal status contacts tend to be intellectually growth promoting and fosters greater acceptance of difference. Next is cooperation. Although perhaps too simplistic in its fundamental form, cooperation is especially beneficial when opposing groups work together to avert a common threat or to achieve a goal that will benefit both sides. Cooperative contact, even for opposing governmental groups, has been shown to promote positive regard for oppositional forces. As claimed by Myers, protecting and preserving common interest, building cohesiveness. Next is communication. Because of the difficulty communication poses for conflicting parties, mediation with the help of a third party can promote fair communication. Mediators can offer a valuable perspective, often difficult for oppositional forces when they are entrenched in self-serving agendas that incorporate the exclusive concept of one side winning and the other losing. Increasing awareness will advance understanding and replace mistrust with renewed faith and confidence. If the mediator can persuade the conflicting parties to re-evaluate their perspective of the situation, the attainment of goals through conceding less important agendas helps both sides reach an end that might otherwise be unattainable. Next is conciliation. When two parties are continually strained with limited to no communication, both parties may be persuaded by a remarkably ordinary, slightly appeasing gestures. As tension gives slightly, such pause is usually sufficient to convince parties to de-escalate to a point where contact, cooperation and communication may be possible. Conciliatory strategies such as the graduated and reciprocated initiatives in tension reduction can work toward alleviating or reducing international tensions enough so that true mediation and communication can begin. The graduated and reciprocated initiatives in tension reduction are known by its acronym GRIT. Describes a well-known process of conflict resolution by facilitating de-escalation by both parties in such a way that leaves opposing sides in a winning position, even though there have been small concessions made by each other. As apparently inherent to the human species, conflict is common among individuals, cultures, and nations. Although the remedy lies in simplistic resolution tactics, the basic underlying assumption by oppositional forces must be a desire to make peace. Peaceful relations offer both sides a winning situation, and working toward Such an end benefits not only the leaders of the opposition but also allows the men, women and children of both sides a prolific, psychologically intact, harmonious existence. Now, let us summarize what we have discussed. The first point is a conflict is basically an understood incompatibility of actions or goals between two or more people. No conflict is merely one-sided. Real conflicts are always multilateral. Negotiation is a process of communication aimed at achieving specific goals where parties in conflict work together for an outcome and meet their interests better than their best alternative. Next point is there are two types of negotiation: distributive and integrative negotiation. Next is in distributive negotiation, where the goal is to make an agreement more favorable to oneself than to others, and in integrative negotiation the goal is to make an agreement that benefits everyone involved. There are two types of social interdependence: positive, which is cooperative, and negative, which is competitive. Next point is peacemaking is used to cover a wide range of missions and often include peace building and peacekeeping. The main function of peacekeeping is to facilitate the transition from a state of conflict to a state of peace. In contrast with peacekeeping, post-conflict peace building is a new concept of which the UN first took note in 1992. There are two types of peace building. One is it aims either to reinforce preventive diplomacy, or the other is by institutionalizing peace after a conflict. Peacemaking can be done through negotiation, mediation, conciliation and arbitration.